Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Latino Free Minds. This is Prime Time, and today we have an episode of Know Your Candidate. And joining me for this interview, well, please welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, the host of uh, Point Blank Truth podcast. It is Danny Molina.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gio. I'm excited to be here with you.
Danny, I appreciate you joining me today. I thought it was very important to have somebody that was regionally close to the guest the candidate that we are going to have on today. So much appreciated for making this long journey.
Yeah.
So, with no further ado, joining us today is a true American success story, a former Army officer who served during Desert Storm, a devoted husband and father, and a Hollywood veteran who's written, acted, and produced. He's a community leader who's coached kids, served as a church deacon, and fights to protect our families and freedoms. Now he's running for Congress in California's 35th district, laser focused on closing the border, protecting our children, and saving our economy. So let's give a warm welcome. Smile. Smile. It is Cargile. Mike Cargile, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. It's an honor to be here.
I'm very happy that you were able to join us today. And when I wrote up that intro, I wanted to make sure that I used your catchphrase, "Smile, it's Cargile."
I appreciate that. It's the most ridiculous thing we could come up with and make it stick. So I use it all the time. Smile. It's
I don't
called
think it's ridiculous at all. I love it. I need something as good as that. So, Mike, you are running for the 35th congressional district. What area does that encompass?
This is the Inland Empire. It basically stretches from Pomona to Fontana, Bloomington area, all the way down to Corona. So at Pomona, it's got all of Claremont, nice chunk of upland, and then it drops way down with Rancho, then Fontana, all of Ontario. I used to have Chino, and they took it away, but they gave me all of Chino Hills, and then all of East Vale, all of Norco, and the upper half of Corona.
Jesus, that's a huge area. Is Fresno part of that?
No, no, it
I'm
does
just
not.
joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking. It's just a massive area.
San Diego, no.
So that is a very good chunk of the Inland Empire. So some of your key focuses. I want to start out because you are in Southern California. You're a lot closer to the border than I am. And one of your focuses is opposing the open border policies. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that priority of yours.
Well, I mean, we've been screaming about this for really since 2016 when Trump first got elected, right? So that was one of his major campaign promises is to close the border, and then Biden stole the election from him and started tearing stuff down, actually. So they have not just been erecting new fences, but they've had to go back and repair what was being demolished under that auto pen we had as a president. So the focus here is a border that we can control. It's got to be a hardened border, which is something all of the law enforcement wants. But we want controlled points of entry. So, and this is not just so we can keep anybody out of the country. It's so that we can also curtail the drugs and the human trafficking. One of the biggest things we have to stop is, and this is something that we can talk about with my opponent, Norma Torres, because she's been an open borders advocate ever since she's been in office. And I mean open borders, like no borders. That's
What?
what she wants, zero borders. And so that allows everything to come and uncontrolled into our country. And that's ridiculous. What you learn who she is. She's from Guatemala, and she's not Mexican. She tries to pretend she's Mexican, but she's from Guatemala. And we started really dialing in on this at the end of the Trump's first term, and I got hold of a whistleblower. So I live right down the road from the Fairplex at Pomona. You're probably familiar with it. Got the best drag race strip in the country. They open and close the season here at Pomona. But during COVID, they brought in minors, unaccompanied minors, and they set up an intake facility here at the Fairplex in Pomona. And they funneled over $1 billion through there in just a few months. And the lady who was the number 2 at that facility, her name is Tara Rodas. She was witnessing children being trafficked through that facility. And the Biden administration dropped all the requirements basically to pick up or quote, quote, sponsor a kid. And she saw gang members, known cartel members, known, MS-13 kind of people coming in and just taking kids
And
left
this is
and
in
right.
Pomona?
Yes. Yes, she saw this. She was the number 2 at the intake. So she wasn't just a low level somebody. She was watching this, and she said she witnessed about 10,000 children go through there. And so she blew the whistle. She worked for HHS. You know who was in charge of HHS at that time?
I do. I've been working on something about this, and it was Javier Becerra.
Javier Becerra. Exactly. So Norma Torres and Javier Becerra put this facility in place. Norma lives literally up the hill. She can see it from her house. So all these kids are being trafficked. The lady blows the whistle on it. They fire her. They remove her immediately. They remove her phone. They remove her keyboard, her laptop. They forgot to take her off the email chains, though. So for months, she saw what was really going on in this facility. Now, the horrifying thing is she actually blew the whistle on Capitol Hill, and Tom McClintock was chairing the subcommittee on this, and she told him everything we saw. And she said, the crazy part of this is the kids, they're coming in and they're screaming. And she says, I'll never forget these screams till the day I die. But the kids couldn't speak Spanish and they couldn't speak English. They were speaking a Mayan dialect. Nobody understood. And I got hold of her and I said, Tara, what country are these kids coming from? And she said, Guatemala. And I said, what area of Guatemala are they coming from? And she said, Barrias. And I said, do you know where Representative Norma Torres is from?
No.
Barrias, Guatemala. So then we started really looking, and we saw her hands in a lot of very bad stuff. She was in charge of millions and millions of USAID money. Now, what did Trump cut off right up front with Doge?
USAID.
USAID money. Now, Norma, she's not too bright. She picked a fight with the wrong guy down there. So she manipulated the presidential election in Guatemala. She manipulated the presidential election in Honduras. But she went for El Salvador. And El Salvador had recently elected a guy named Nayib Bukele. And Nayib doesn't play. He's racking up these MS-13 guys, over 60,000 in that prison he's got going on there. And he doesn't play. Norma picked a fight with him. And so he tweeted out in this district, the 35th, if you live here, do not vote for Norma Torres. She only has one opponent, and that's me. So then she got crazy, called the CIA and State Department, all this stuff that the election was being interfered with. But that's ridiculous. She didn't need to do that because California had already rigged it for her. But she didn't know at that time. So this is a bad, bad lady I'm running against. And Open Borders is just a part of it. She's won awards from Planned Parenthood. I mean, she literally,
Oh,
Yeah,
She's a
she's not
baby
just a
murderer.
low leveler. She's won awards from Planned Parenthood.
She's a child trafficker assistant with the
Yeah.
HHS, and she's a baby murderer.
Yeah, what we refer to her as a communist baby killer from Guatemala.
And the tweet went out from Bukele.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
I
so
need to track that down.
if you go to my website, I put right up front a button that says "Meet Mike's opponent." See, I told you she's not
Oh,
too bright, and she didn't own her name. Her name is Norma J. Torres. So I was kind enough to go buy normajtorres.com. So I bought it, and then I was kind enough to build her a website too.
oh, nice.
So there's a great little website on normajtorres.com. And I show all of her statements, videos, how she's voted, and everything. And if you really want to see, on normajtorres.com, there's another button that says Meet Norma and the Children. And if you go there, you can see, I mean, from her interactions with Kamala Harris to the Attorney General in Guatemala, what's been going on down there and how she's been interacting with it. So we have the receipts, we have the tweets. She's been very bad. But, as bad as she is, I can't beat her if I don't have a fair election. And that's really what we are against or up against here is David Serpa, all these guys, everybody, they're campaigning as if something's going to happen, and I hope it does. Because if it doesn't, the people who manipulate these things in Sacramento are going to determine the outcomes, and they are not going to be good.
Can I ask, when is this tweet? When was this tweet sent out?
21, I think it was.
Okay, so
So it wasn't for
I'm
this
looking at it
election.
right now.
Huh?
I'm looking at it right now from Nayib Bukele,
It's there.
and I'm going to translate it because it's in Spanish, and it says, "My brothers, uh, my Salvadoran brothers, Mexicans, Hondurans, Guatemalans, Dominicans, Venezuelans, and everyone of Latin America that live in District 35 of California, do not vote for Norma J. Torres.
Yeah.
Do,
Her
do
Twitter.
not work. She does not work for you guys. Wow.
Yeah.
She works for herself against our country's.
Okay, so hold on. So where's this tweet from?
The president of El Salvador.
Oh my god,
Yeah, Bukele.
Yeah. He's the man.
He is the man.
that is hilarious. So the president of El
She
Salvador
works to destroy
tweeted
our country.
specific. Mike, you should have reached out to him and asked for a donation, man. I'm sure he would have.
I wish. Yeah. That would have been violating all kinds of laws.
Yeah, what did it have been on?
The Democrats don't seem to have a problem with it, but I would be in prison.
Yeah. Well, good on you. Good on you,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're calling her out because the information isn't just coming from Mike Cargile. It's coming from everywhere, including the Salvadoran president, who has cleaned up El Salvador. He's gone from one of the most dangerous countries in North America to, I want to say, the safest now. I
Yeah,
don't like
his-
saying that because United States, but I mean, we're in California, so we know better.
Right.
Wow, with not just the human trafficking at the border, but the drug trafficking. But when your opponent has the record that she does,
Yeah. It's not
Well,
good.
also, I think that just for Latinos across California, it's important to keep in mind, the president of another country is not going to go out of his way to tweet that just because, he wants to ruin somebody's day. I'm sure that he means it. I'm sure that he sees a serious conflict of interest with this woman taking any seat in Congress.
Well,
So-
she's been there. That's the problem. He's aware of what she's been doing. he's aware of what she's been trying to do. So here's the thing. You've got a guy who takes over, as you just said, the worst country in Central, maybe of all. It was the murder capital of the world. He gets elected, and he doesn't play around. I know exactly what he did because I was talking to some folks in his administration. He didn't play with them because the gangs would all commingle. At first, he separated everybody out so they couldn't all be together and fight. And then he said, no cell phones. And he cut off all coverage to the prison.
Oh,
And then he
good.
said, listen, the violence in my country will stop, because he recognized how this was being conducted from within the prison, the violence outside, but also the violence was occurring in New York and other places being conducted from within that prison. So he cuts the cell phones off. The violence in El Salvador didn't stop. And then he took away a meal, and he said, the violence will stop. And it didn't. And he took away the mattresses. And he said, the violence in my country will stop, because if it doesn't, I'll take your last meal away and you will starve in this prison. And he meant it. And they knew it. And the violence stopped. That's how we have to handle this. That's how we have to handle these people. He's not playing around. And he's been attacked, oh man, from all over the world. Human rights violations, human rights. And he says, well, what about the rights of the victims? What about the rights of
Or
the women?
dogs.
You know, the people that were murdered, what about their rights? That's what he was elected to fix, and he's done it. El Salvador is safer right now than any major U.S. city.
Holy
That's
moly.
wild.
Yeah,
That's a big thing to say.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, are there studies on that at all, or is that just something that?
No. I mean, he went literally over 300 days without a single murder in the entire country.
I see.
Almost
Yeah,
a full year without a single murder. What city has that?
that's crazy. Yeah, that's true.
There's not.
No. And people are leaving here, and they're so happy to go back home. And this is the immigration story, right? When we talk about the southern border, everyone thinks of the wall. But I say the greatest security measure the United States could ever have at its southern border is a safe, prosperous Mexico. And then extend that to Central America, because who would want to leave? If it's safe and prosperous, and they would be our best neighbors, and we would look out for each other. And that drives so much of my thinking internationally right now. You know, we're looking at this war going on in Iran. Listen, I am so ready to be out of there and done with that. Like yesterday, I am fully against boots on the ground and getting involved in a land war there. I want our troops back here defending this hemisphere. We have very grave problems in our country right now. We have an influx of people who have invaded us to the tune of tens of millions. We don't know who they are, what their plans are. We know that there's an Islamic invasion taking place, and we do know what their plans are. And I think we ought to get all of those troops back here. You know, as the president said the other day, you know, we don't need oil. We've got the oil from Venezuela now that they've been liberated, and we have more oil here than any place in the world, especially California. So why are we doing this? I say pack it up, let that area of the world fend for itself. They're all sovereign countries. Let's focus here. Let's focus domestically. Let's focus on our neighbors. Let's focus on Canada, Mexico, Central and South America, because this is the home. And it's like on an airplane. If there's an emergency, the air mask drop, you're told put it on yourself first, because you can't help your child if you lose your oxygen. So you put it on yourself, and then you help those around you. And that needs to be our attitude here domestically.
I agree, and I love that you call for improving our hemisphere here. And the reason I say that is because back when COVID started and we started to realize how much we rely on China and India,
Right.
I thought it was going to be the perfect opportunity to shift things back, not just back to the United States, but maybe to Mexico, Central America, maybe even Canada, and spread that wealth from that hemisphere, bring it over here. Um,
I couldn't agree more. You know, when you look at the resources, the natural resources that we have in the Americas, why would you go anywhere else? You know, we have everything we could ever want or need in, you know, 1,000 lifetimes here. Let's focus. Now, it doesn't mean that we need to be an isolationist and not focus on and help other nations. But right now, it's really tough to advocate for something like that when I see how broken our own nation is. We have a crisis of identity, we have a crisis of sin. You know, this whole LGBTQ agenda against kids, you know, cutting off the breasts of little girls and the penises of little boys, all in the name of gender ideology, whatever the heck that means, letting boys play with girls and hurt them, you know, on the field of play, allowing men in women's bathrooms so that you can rape them and do other horrible things. I've yet to see women screaming to get into men's locker rooms. Haven't seen it.
no.
It's always the other way around. It's always predators looking, and they've been enabled by our government and our leaders who are also, I believe, pedophiles at their heart. So, and we've seen it with guys like Scott Wiener. He's just pure evil.
Yeah, he's passing a bunch of. I'm glad you mentioned him, because one of your priorities is kids and parental rights. So, if you're gonna go for kids and for protecting kids and parental rights, you have to go after somebody who is authoring a lot of these bills that are passing here in California.
Right.
And little by little, I keep saying little by little, he is sneaking in this policy. He's not even sneaking it in, but little by little, little puzzle piece here, little puzzle piece there. He is bringing in hell into the state of California, and now he's running for Nancy Pelosi's seat.
Yes, I was
So
about to say.
those of you outside of California, look out if he wins, because the polls have him ahead.
Right.
So
Well,
Is
and
he
this,
really?
this
Is he
is
really ahead?
go
by
ahead.
far.
That's crazy. And I was just saying, I think it's crazy that guy of all people is ahead. You know, I mean, when it comes to this whole protecting kids, you know, you brought up the pedophile stuff. You know, I think that especially in the conservative space, there's a huge fracture on that front. You know, and I just don't think it's inexcusable. You know what I mean? Anybody who's pushing policy like that, anybody who's protecting pedophiles, anybody who is acting like, you know, like the Epstein files, it's no big deal. I mean, I think that that's garbage. And I think that the American people want to vote for real people who know the real problems and are willing to do what needs to be done, you know, because we've already seen it where leaders say they're going to do something, and then when they get there, they don't. You know,
Right.
can you speak to us a little bit about that, Mike? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's why I'm running for office. I mean, seriously, when I started this journey, I was an independent Christian filmmaker. I had no idea. I discussed politics is disgusting, and there's a joke in Hollywood that says that Washington D.C. is Hollywood for ugly people, because that's how they view them. It's really pathetic. I didn't want to be in this. I wanted to bring a skill set behind somebody who was running for office who represented my values. And I looked and I waited, and nobody was willing to run against this lady. And it was down to the wire. And I looked at my wife and I said, nobody's going to run. She's going to be unopposed. And my wife said, well, then I guess you're going to have to do it. So I jumped in the race. I'd never done anything like this. No help, no, you know, just feeling my way along like a blind man. And then I had my feet under me for about a month, and then COVID hit. So now I can't campaign. I can't even go shake people's hands. I can't do anything. I can make Facebook memes, and then Facebook cancels me.
No way.
Yeah, Twitter cancels me, Facebook cancels me. And so it was just, I don't even count that 2020, but I did see what they were doing. And this is how I knew President Trump was exactly right when he said the election's stolen. So in 2020, they set a parameter or a percentage, and they just started because of the COVID measures, the whole process of having 30 days after the election to count ballots, right? Never been done before. So we start watching them. And they set a 70-30 parameter on my race. 70-30. 70 for her, 30 for me. But then for 18 straight updates, no matter how many ballots I had come in, whether it was 1,000, 500, 5,000, didn't matter. Whatever I had come in, she had just enough to keep it at 70-30 for 18 straight updates. It's impossible. So we saw what they were doing then. 2022 rolls around, and 2 weeks after the election, we saw this massive ballot dump come in. Why? Because you got a month to count ballots. Where are they coming from? Nobody knows. And then I wasn't going to run in 24. And then I knew, though, if President Trump wins, if he needs California, if he's got a plan for California, then I wanted to be there for him. So I ran again. And the crazy thing is, they took the results of 2022 and just recycled them for 2024 to the 10th of a percentage. But twice as many people voted in 24 because Trump was on the ballot. And that's impossible. So it's rigged. I know it's rigged across the entire state because I have 3 of the biggest counties in the country in my district, LA, San Bernardino, and Riverside. And they did this across 3 districts. So that can only be done at the state level. So it's Sacramento. Trump knows this. What can he do? Well, guys, we really have 2 things. And if we don't get these one of the 2 right, we're going to lose the country. And I don't want to sound like a gloom and doom guy, but I've seen this. I've seen this story now a few times, especially with the recall election. We shouldn't have Gavin Newsom as our governor right now.
I agree.
So we got 2 things, and they're both rooted in the Constitution. And if you don't want to talk about this, let me know. We can go wherever you want to go with this conversation, but I think it's really important for the voters to know we've only got 2 shots at this, and one of them isn't looking good right now, and that's the SAVE Act. It was passed in the House, but it's stalled in the Senate. Thune, I don't know, someone's not offering him enough money or whatever to move this thing forward. But the ability of Congress to tell the states how they run their elections is in Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution. It gives Congress this right to tell California, voter ID must be a citizen, paper ballots, hand counted on that day, all that stuff the SAVE Act does. Perfectly constitutional, which means the Supreme Court or these other courts can't weigh in on it or contradict it, which is the biggest issue Trump faces right now, these lower level judges. So that's one. If it goes through, all hands on deck, because we actually will have a chance to have fair elections over California, and you're going to see this state, the character change dramatically. The second option is the president. And you hear people say the Insurrection Act, but his ability to tell California how it conducts its elections is actually rooted in its Article 4, Section 4. It's called the Guarantee Clause. And the president, the federal government, has to guarantee the American citizens 3 things. That's why it's called the Guarantee Clause. They guarantee us that we are free from domestic violence. They guarantee us that we have a Republican form of government, which means you and I elect representatives that go and speak for us. Otherwise, our voices, if we're direct, that's called a democracy. It's also called mob rule. And we don't want a direct democracy. We want a republic where we elect representatives to go speak for us. And the third thing is the government's supposed to guarantee that we're free from invasion. And if China is manipulating the elections of California because we have unguarded drop boxes, we have unguarded counting facilities, massive counting facilities, we have no way of knowing who's going to vote because it's illegal to ask them for their ID. We have people signing up to vote the day of the election. We actually have that in California. You can come here from any country in the world, go and say, I don't know where I live, but I want to vote. And they can't ask for ID and they have to give you a provisional ballot. So who's voting in our elections? We have no idea. No idea. And that's at the polling place. Forget about it when it comes to the mail-in ballots. We have no idea where they go. You know?
Well, we had is it Shiloh Marks?
Yeah, Shiloh.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast a few months ago, and he brought us so many of these suspicious activities going on with our voter rolls that we were mind blown.
Yeah.
I can't imagine with the evidence that Shiloh brought alone that we can't pass the SAVE Act in the United States, or here in California that we can't convince the voters of California to vote in voter ID this November.
Shiloh's a good guy. He's a good guy. The gold standard, though, is an organization called Election Integrity Project California, EIPCA. And they've been tracking this stuff for the last 2 decades. And they can show you exactly what's going on, how bad it's actually been. I mean, they're tracking everything from, we have people enrolled, do you know what motor voter is? Where if you're here illegally, you can still get a driver's license.
Right.
When you get your driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. Unless you go opt out, you're going to get a ballot.
You can't be kidding me.
No, seriously. And we know who they are because you also will get a jury summons at some point. So they call and they go, I can't be on jury. I'm illegal.
You
But
gotta
you
be.
got a ballot.
That's
crazy.
insane.
Yeah. Now we have over 2 million more registered voters than citizens of the state of
2
California.
million is a lot.
Yeah, there's a whole lot. And that number will differentiate whether you're talking about active or inactive. But what does that really mean when the dead are voting? Active, inactive. And here's the most egregious thing, and this is where all of these people get it wrong. The Republicans are horrible about this. They act like you can do more and somehow fix it, but you can't do more when the system itself is rigged. You can't do anything different. And you have like Elizabeth Barkahan out there, you guys got to get out and you got to vote early and all this stuff. How's that going to change the election that's being rigged? I have literally thousands of people would call in and they would say to the people at Election Integrity, I showed up to the polls and they were told I'd already voted.
No.
No, seriously, thousands and thousands. You've already voted. Well, what just happened? So here's the thing they don't understand. In California, the data flows from the counties up to Sacramento. It doesn't flow from Sacramento down. So your mail-in ballot doesn't come from the county. It comes from Sacramento, the Secretary of State. So they may say, oh, we're going to purge the ballots in Los Angeles or Ventura or some county. And the counties don't fight it. They go, oh, yeah, fine. Get all those bad people off the rolls because it's never changed in Sacramento. And that's why people will get 4, 5, 6 ballots because the data is never purged at the Secretary of State. VoteCal, it's completely corrupt. It needs to be completely demolished and rebuilt. But because of this, people, and I know because they call me and they go, I haven't lived in California in over 10 years. I live in Tennessee and I got a California ballot in the mail.
In Tennessee.
or Georgia or Texas or pick a state. I hear about it because they used to live here and they were never taken off the rolls.
So let me ask you, because I think a lot of this stuff, people hear it and it's a little demoralizing, like people already feel like the vote is worthless. People already feel like, why vote? There's no point to it. You know, what would you recommend to the average person listening, Mr. Cargile? Like, how do we deal with this or address this or confront this? Is there something we can do? What do you recommend?
Well, like I said, we got two shots at this. If the SAVE Act passes, then everybody, and I mean everybody, you can't take that position. You have to vote like your life depends on it because it does. And then you have to go grab your neighbor and make them vote because your life depends on your neighbor voting. And then we have to get out of the mindset of mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting and all that garbage that didn't exist, just 20 years ago. We need to get back to what we used to have. The second thing is you can't not vote because they can't cheat at all the lower level races. Now they're going to completely rig the governor's race, state assembly, state senate, and congressional completely. But they're not going to be able to rig your local city council or your school board or your fire board or water or municipal. They're not going to be able to rig those. And frankly, they don't care because those people are all subject to what comes out of Sacramento. So they just want to control the top. But the more we can control the bottom, the more influence we can actually have on the top while we're trying to fix this. But the real truth of this is if we don't save the elections this time around, we're done as a country. And I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but that's the truth. Because I know they want to put the voter ID on the ballot, and Carl DeMaio's out there banging his drum, send me money, he does that with everything. Send me money, whether it's school choice, whether it's, Prop 50, whether it's recall. Carl is the biggest grifter in California. And if he was here, I'd tell him that to his face. That's why he won't even mention my name publicly, because he knows I see him for what he is. But the reality is, it doesn't matter. They're going to use this whole voter ID thing to try and bring people to the polling places. If you listen to them, really listen to them, that's all they're expecting because Trump's not on the ballot. So why would anyone vote? Well, we got to have a reason to make them vote. Well, let's say voter ID. Maybe that's a reason they'll vote. They don't really think it's going to pass because they know who's in charge of the elections. They're trying to get people motivated. That's what they're actually doing. So if we lose the midterms, then the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to impeach Trump right off because you're going to lose the majority in the House. You'll lose the majority in the Senate, and they'll have enough votes to actually remove him this time. It won't just be the House impeaches him, but the Senate doesn't remove him. And he's done. The last two terms of his administration are gone. Then it's JD, and they'll impeach him right after him. The next person in line will be the House Majority Leader, who will be a Democrat. Might even be Gavin Newsom or someone like that, because people don't understand this either. The Speaker in the House of Representatives doesn't actually have to be a representative. It can be whoever they want. So, and the Speaker's third in line for the presidency. So you could literally have President Gavin Newsom, and he's never received a vote. But the House of Representatives elects him. They take out the top two Republicans, and he becomes the de facto president. That's a very real scenario. So it's important. It's important to stay engaged, stay focused. This is I don't know if you want to get into it, but this is really what drives me right now, because I am automatically going through the primary. Norma Torres and I are the only two on the ballot, so I don't have a primary fight. So I'm taking everything I do, everything I say, all my effort, I'm putting it behind Sheriff Chad Bianco because he's the only guy who can turn this state around. If you see all the Democrats, I love what he said the other night. He said, I'm not afraid of anything. And you know he means it because that guy looks at pure evil all day. I'm not afraid of anything, but I am terrified if any of these people on this stage become the next governor. And he should be. He's exactly right. I'm not a fan of Steve Hilton. And I keep telling people, they go, we got to quit fighting Republicans. You're going to split the vote. I go, no, that's exactly wrong. Because Steve Hilton, first of all, Steve Hilton, I've been running for Congress longer than Steve Hilton's been a citizen. That's ridiculous. And on top of that, even when he became a citizen, he was a dual citizen. So he didn't have a single allegiance like we have when you pledge allegiance to the flag. He didn't have that. He had an allegiance to Great Britain and the United States up until last November 2025. He finally got rid of his other citizenship and became a full American citizen with a single allegiance. Less
Mike,
than a year.
Mike, that's got to be impossible. Last November 2025,
Yes,
he was already running.
I understand. And the only reason he did that is because he was catching so much flack because people were going, how are you running for governor and you're a dual citizen? So he said, when he's bringing this British accent, well, I guess I'll have to change that. And he went and he got rid of his British citizenship. So yeah, no, so that's bad. I mean, you're going to hand the fourth or fifth largest economy on the planet to a guy here who's not even really a citizen of this country and hasn't been a real citizen for even a year yet. And people bring up Schwarzenegger. I go, listen, Schwarzenegger was a citizen for 20 years before he tried to run for this level of office.
Exactly.
And before that, he had been the chair of the president's Physical Fitness Council under Bush. So he was involved in national politics before he took a bite of that apple. And I say, Hilton, nice guy, got some great ideas, but you need to spend a little more time in the saddle before you get on a horse this big.
But Mike, maybe you don't know this because you were busy at Sunday school, but Steve Hilton had a show on Fox News on Sundays.
Revolution or Revolution. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I think that, look, Steve Hilton is a nice guy. I had the opportunity to ask him, we did the veteran bucket poll with him.
Mm-hmm.
And, he gave great cleaned up answers, and he did surprise me. He was nicer than he needed to be and nicer than I expected him to be. My thing, on top of the fact that he just became a citizen, it's like you can't, the American culture isn't something that you just join and understand completely right away. It takes years to really understand and be able to level with everyday Americans. And, I think that if any Republican is going to get in Sacramento, it's going to be tough. I mean, you're talking about extreme conflict, extreme pushback. People are going to understand that they're probably on the chopping block. It's going to take a long time for a Republican governor to really get the wheels rolling in the right direction because he's going to have to create a group of people who like him and agree with him. He's going to have to remove people from cabinet positions that help him out and replace them. And I think when I look at Hilton and I look at Chad Bianco, I see somebody in Chad Bianco who is comfortable with conflict, who's not afraid of conflict, where I think Hilton is already rubbing shoulders with the people in Sacramento. He's already buddy with them. Right. He's not going to really want to flip tables and fix things the way he said. And if you listen to his answers, it's really clear that he's not really posturing on fixing things. I think Chad Bianco is coming out strong, and I think he's making it very clear, look, the Democrats are lying. These are Democrat issues that need fixed.
Yes,
we need to cut things. We need to get rid of unnecessary spending. These are all things he's talking about that I think hit with the average American, you know? And I just can't even, you know, I'm all over social media and I see people talking all the time. I get liberal news things coming in where people are like, as long as we don't get a Republican, it's like, where do these people live, Mike? You know, it must be nice out there, you know, overlooking the ocean and stuff like that. But most of us, you know, I have 4 kids. I have a house, but I work very hard for it. We have a dual income household. It is difficult. We are struggling. I don't just have money to take my kids on vacation. Californians are tired of the bullshit. And I think Chad Bianco is really coming out as somebody who
Uh, I thought it was
I
me.
said something. I lost him there. You hear me?
We lost you, Daniel. We lost your audio. Um,
His
but
passion blew it out.
they had to silence you, Daniel. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Danny?
You probably hit the button on your mic. Come back in. So on what Daniel was saying, asking where these people live in their utopias in California. Because personally, I don't live in these cities where people um, have to deal with homeless people that are on fentanyl. Like we do have it in downtown Fresno, but it's not as bad as when you go to like San Francisco. I just saw a video today where it was they were on a street corner, and there must have been like 20 guys out there just tripping big time, just hanging over. One guy had his pants around his knees, and nobody does anything about it. Just they're just allowed to be out there. Same thing in Los Angeles with Skid Row. Like
Oh,
nobody wants to
it's
do anything
horrible.
about it, and then we want to
So
continue with the same policies.
yeah, well, that's the thing. You can't fix the problem with the very people who created the problem. You got to have new people. You got to have, new blood, new ideas, people willing to work different angles. First of all, you have to have people who recognize the problem, right? If you listen to those people on stage, they didn't even recognize the problem. Giving Gavin Newsom an A, like Becerra did, it's like you don't see there's a problem. Well, for them, there's no problem. Things are working great for them. Why would you want? And this is the same thing in this Senate with the SAVE Act and Thune. These people, like the Republican Party, they do not believe there's anything wrong with our elections. They think that things are fine. You hear that?
I do hear his microphone.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Gio. I'm sorry, man.
Hey, Danny.
I probably sound like garbage, don't I?
Well, there's a
Yeah,
buzzing.
there's like a lot of fan noise or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not me, man. If
You,
I might have to leave and come back. Is that something that we could do?
yeah, you could do that.
All right, let
If
me.
you just close the tab, just come back in with the same link.
Got it. Got it.
Yep. Sorry about that, Mike.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
yeah, to me, it surprises me when they sit on stage and they go back and forth with each other. The debate a couple days ago, the Democrats, they're arguing with each other, and I just sit back and go, "You're all part of the problem.
Yeah,
Every single one of you. Becerra is the worst.
I
The
know.
head of the HHS, and people online, they build him up and they go, "Oh yeah, we got to get all the Latinos." And I'm looking at it like, you know, there's a very large portion of us that will be voting for Bianco.
Right.
But there are the blue no matter who, which outnumber the common sense voters, and they're all throwing their weight behind Becerra. And I'm just like, do you not realize what he did? Have you not seen the tape of Becerra and what he said? Or have you not read the New York Times article? New York Times is not New York Post. New York Times is
Very bad.
ultra left-wing liberal media. That's your team
Yeah.
attacking him, and they're doing it. The journalist did it because it was children that were being, I want to say, violated, but they were being they were being brought into the United States at crazy numbers. Um, yeah,
Trafficked. Their
yeah,
kids were trafficked.
exactly,
Yeah,
traffic.
no, it's ridiculous. And the Hispanic Latino voting bloc has got to stop this with the Spanish last name. That's who we have to vote for. I keep telling them, look, you came to this country to escape a level of violence in your home country, right? Yes. And everybody who was perpetrating violence against you had a Latino last name, didn't they? They were cartel members and they were chopping heads off. So you wouldn't vote for them just because they had a Latino last name, would you?
No,
Well, no, I guess I wouldn't. So you want to vote for the person, not the name. Find out what their values are, what they stand for. It doesn't matter what their last name is. Just make sure that they represent your values.
I agree 100%. Danny, you there?
Yeah, sorry about my technical difficulty,
Ooh, sounds
guys.
crispy. There we go.
Yeah,
There you go.
sorry. I'm sorry about that. My
No
bad.
worries.
But anyways, I was just saying that I do think Chad Bianco is clearly the best option. I think that he clearly is the one up there who's the most connected to the issues that the everyday California feels, and I think a lot of people are gonna be looking for that when it comes time to vote. It's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, the funny thing is Steve Hilton's played right into his hands. So everything he's been attacking Chad over, the sheriff, taking a knee with BLM. Well, all the black voters and all the liberals are going to think that's kind of cool, that he took a
I
knee.
thought it was pretty cool.
Well, they're not going to see it as a negative. And the whole, he wants a pathway to citizenship. Well, there's a lot of people who are going to go, well, that's my guy then.
Yeah.
Right? So, he's actually paved the road for the sheriff. But
You
we've
know,
just got to get him through.
Mike, because we're talking about Bianco and the Steve Hilton attacks on Bianco. A lot of these attacks, I feel like there's a very small percentage of MAGA voters, and I don't even like to say that because I considered myself MAGA up until, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 2 months ago. But uh, a lot of the things that they argue against, I don't think are views that we have in California. Uh, at least when I talk to people out and about,
Right.
not just in Fresno, because Fresno in the Fresno County, it could be very my perception could be blurred because there is a lot of uh, illegal immigrants here or folks here on asylum. So I could have a distorted view here, but even when I go outside of Fresno, when I go to Sacramento County, when I go to Los Angeles County, when I go to Riverside County, San Diego, I hear the same thing everywhere, and people are just like, no, we do need immigration reform. It's stupid to just go in and deport everybody. Steve Hilton himself said it wasn't going to be possible. It's just not practical. His exact word, not practical. And here we are online, and people are arguing, and any little post that you put up, 20 of them will go on there and completely spam you,
Hmm.
and you're just like, where are all the real people at? And then you go to Instagram and it's completely different. Somebody will post something and it's like, yeah, no, I'm voting for Bianco. I'm voting
Yeah.
for Bianco. Same thing on
Yeah.
Facebook. You post something, if you put Hilton, if you put Porter, if you put Steyer, the comments are just full of, no, I'm voting Bianco. That's the only guy that makes sense. He just went out there on the debate stage, and I'm sorry for you college kids that have no freaking idea. Here's what pisses me off. We're getting ready for the debate, and before CBS is doing these interviews on the street, and they have this
Worst debate I've ever seen too.
terrible debate. We'll get into that. But they're out on the street and they're or on campus, and they asked this girl like, "Hey, where are you from?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm here from Washington State. Will you be voting this election?" "Yeah, I'm going to be voting." And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to be voting? And then he asked her, well, are you going to stay here in California after you graduate? I might come back, but I plan to go back. And I'm just like, you can't vote. You, what the hell do you think you're doing? You're
It's
going to ruin
California.
our state?
You do whatever you want to here.
Yeah,
I got so
you just got to
mad.
ask for a ballot, dude.
Yeah, that's it. We know that they had massive amounts of college kids. They would go as a group and they would go from polling place to polling place and all vote because they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing about we're talking about the two Republican governor candidates, but it's interesting because the whole kneeling thing, it's easy to criticize a sheriff who's put in that position. It's real easy. And most people would fold under the pressure. People are screaming at him, and his job wasn't to be a Republican candidate in that moment. His job was to protect and serve the community and the environment he was in. And I really don't care at all about the details of if he took a knee, if it was a prayer or not. I think that the decision that he made was the right decision. There was no riot. There was no craziness. There was nothing like that,
Well,
And
did either of you guys play sports?
yeah,
Play
Yeah,
football?
I played
What do you
soccer
do?
and basketball.
Well, even basketball, but at the end of the game, what would you do? You get with the other team and you guys all take a knee.
yeah,
The coach would say, hey, come around, take a knee. That's what Chad Bianco was doing in that
yeah.
moment. It wasn't about BLM. That wasn't even a thing yet. This is 1 week after the George Floyd video, and everybody was upset, and he agreed with him. And he says, if you go watch the video we put out on this, the whole protest was about the curfew that the sheriff had imposed. They were protesting a curfew, not BLM. They weren't even protesting George Floyd. They wanted to have no curfew so they could break things all night long. And the sheriff imposed a curfew. That's what the protest was about. The only person who made it about BLM was Steve Hilton, but for
Yeah.
political reasons. But the sheriff calmed them down. Look, we agree. We both think that George Floyd was wrong, and you guys can protest, but you can't break my curfew. Let's all get together. And they all took a knee together. And he said, we'll pray together. I don't know if they prayed together or not. They wanted to, but they did. It doesn't matter. Everybody, all the news outlets, everybody said the prayer, the sheriff is kneeling with them, and they're kneeling together. And no one cared until Steve Hilton ran for governor.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's so interesting to see what's going on. I think that the two Republicans are making a lot of sense. I
But
think
see, and
that
this is another thing, Danny. We've got video of Steve Hilton saying, I'm not a Republican.
yeah, that's true.
I'm a popular populist or some pop something or other. Okay, why are you running as a Republican then?
I'm a populist, the positive kind.
Yeah, I'm a positive pop something. Dude, run
If
as an
if you
independent.
don't know what a populist is just somebody that goes with what's popular. You just go with the wind. Like if
You're nothing.
if people want to kill babies today, then
Right.
just have abortions.
Right.
If tomorrow we want to cut little boys' dicks off, then go for it.
Right.
If that's a popular thing, then do it.
Right.
And he goes into these interviews. There was one last week where he's talking to this woman and he's like, yeah, I'm used to going and dealing with the opposition and sitting in a room with the opposition, working side by side and making sure that we get the things that we need to get done. And she goes, this isn't a parliament. And he goes, he gets kind of flustered and he goes, well, I know that. I'm just saying that we're going to be working together. And I'm like,
No,
did she
well,
just get you?
you just hit the nail on the head. I don't know if you even realize how profound what you just said is, because that's exactly what he is. He's like a hostage negotiator. He's a negotiator. He's a union negotiator. Success means we stopped fighting. Whether I had to give up a lot, you had to give up a lot, at the end of the day, we came to an agreement.
Yeah.
And that means success in Steve Hilton's mind. It doesn't mean it was the right thing or the wrong thing, because in his mind, there is no right and wrong. It's just, can we stop fighting? Okay, well, that's success. So he's going to negotiate to a ceasefire. That's really what he does. That's what he did in Great Britain for what's the guy's name he was working for? David Cameron. You know, he was a strategist. That was his title. He was the head of strategy. What does that mean? Well, we're gonna fight until there's no more fight, or negotiate till there's no more fight or conflict. And that's what he is. He's a conflict resolutionist. So, but that's not who we need as our chief executive. We have
Right.
to have a guy who has a vision and a way to accomplish it. And he's, like Danny said, turn over the tables, fire. This is my chief complaint of President Trump. You made the headlines for years and years with a show called The Apprentice, and you were known for, you're fired. You're fired. Why did it take you so long to fire Pam Bondi? Why did it take you so long to fire these people that the rest of us see are not helping you and your agenda? You need to become that guy, Mr. President. You need to say, you're fired. Next. Because I know what needs to be done, and if you can't do it, I'll find someone who can. You're fired.
Yeah. No, I,
That's
I,
what we need.
I agree. There's a question, and I think it is an important one because I know where Bianco stands on this. Your position on the Second Amendment.
Well, I stand firmly on the Second Amendment. So, what is the Second Amendment? It's the shortest of the amendments. It says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Right?
Right.
So, what does that mean? It means that as an American, our government recognizes your right as a human to defend yourself with whatever you need. And defend yourself also includes your family and your community. So where I am on the Second Amendment is there should be no restrictions. Any regulation, any restriction, any requirements are blatantly unconstitutional. An American citizen, do you realize this? An American citizen can own a tank. I know people who have tanks, private tanks, because that's our right as a citizen. I don't know that they're going to fire it at somebody, but you have the right to own whatever you need and as much of it as you need to defend yourself, your family, and your community. And this whole thing about concealed carry, I was just on a podcast the other night with a Second Amendment group, and they had all these concealed carry questions. And I go, concealed carry is unconstitutional.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
There you
it's
go.
completely unconstitutional. You should be able to open carry, concealed carry, wherever you want. It's your right.
My guy, guys, tell everybody to vote for Mike Cargile. That's all I wanted to know.
No,
I'm tired of having to hide it in my waistband and
Yeah, it's
worry
ridiculous.
about how I sit.
Yeah, open carry is great because the bad guys see who's armed too. You know, and they're going to go, maybe I don't want to do that here because I could see about 4 or 5 pieces on some people's hips. Maybe not the right place to do this. It's a deterrent.
Yeah.
That's what we're after. So that's where I sit on the second. It's the most important of the amendments because it protects all of the others. Because if you can't enforce this with violence, you can't keep it. So the Second Amendment and anything, and that word infringe actually means trespass. So it's the promise of our government saying it will never trespass, and it has. But
Yeah, it
will
already has.
trespass, yes, on our rights to have whatever we need, whether that's a slingshot, a knife, or a tank, whatever it takes. It doesn't matter. Caliber, rounds, amount of rounds, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As an American citizen, you have a right to have whatever you need or want in the event. And I don't know a single Latino husband or father who doesn't have a gun in the house, because you never know what's going to come through that front door. And whatever it is, you need to be able to suppress it or kill it if need be. So you need to be able to defend yourself and your family. So that's where I am at.
I love it.
What? This one might put you on the spot, but we do have a friend of the show. He is a deputy in Stone County, Mississippi, and in
Nice.
Mississippi, they do not allow. I should preface it with, he is a dreamer, right? DACA recipient.
Right.
He is not allowed to carry a firearm. So he actually passed the police academy, but he wouldn't get certified to carry a firearm, so he couldn't work as a police officer. He did for a little bit, but when they realized it, they were like, "Oh, we have to. You can't do this." And the sheriff was like, "Yeah, you can work for me, but if you can't carry a firearm in the state, you're
Right.
gonna have to work in transport without a firearm." So he's doing that now, and he's trying his best right now to somehow get up to Trump and ask him, hey Trump, I've been here nearly my whole life. I just happened to be born in Mexico, and my mom brought me over. My
Right.
brother was born here.
How old is he?
He is in his 30s
Okay, so why hasn't he become a citizen yet?
because he won't marry his fiance. He wants to do it the right way.
This is the problem. These DACA, we call them kids, but they're no longer kids.
Yeah,
The dreamers, that was a while back. That was under Obama.
yeah,
You've had more than enough time to figure out if you really want to become a citizen of this great nation, then you should have done it. Now, my advice to him would be leave and reapply and then start the paperwork to become a citizen. If you've never broken the laws and you're not a felon, they're telling them go out, and there are people that go out and then they come right back in. But now they're coming in the right way. They're coming in, using the ports of entry, using the proper procedures. If someone sponsoring him, the sheriff would say, yeah, go out, come right back in, and then let's work on making you a citizen of the United States. This is Chad Bianco's chief problem is it shouldn't take, decades to become a citizen. If he's a good guy and we need him in law enforcement, then there should be a way to break through that. And it's not, they call it the pathway to citizenship. Anybody who becomes a citizen takes a pathway to become a citizen. It's ridiculous.
I hate when people pull up this argument, Mike, because to me, when I hear pathway to citizenship, it doesn't mean you're going to become a citizen.
Right.
Everybody hears that and goes, amnesty. I
Exactly.
knew it. I
Right.
knew
Yeah.
Bianco wanted to give amnesty, and I'm just sitting here like, what the heck are you talking
Yeah.
about? Just because you want immigration reform and you want people to... a pathway to citizenship means people get visas, people get green cards, and maybe, just maybe, at some point, they might be able to qualify to get
To
American
become a citizen.
citizenship.
Right.
But you never start with American citizenship. I mean, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty. My dad still has a green card.
Right.
I mean, my mom had a green card, and she applied for her citizenship in the 90s. So she waited her time. It's just such a stupid argument that people make. No, we just need to deport them all. No, what the heck are you talking about? Who's gonna do these jobs? I'm sorry to tell you, like I don't want to sound like one of these racists, like on the View. Who's gonna clean our toilets? No, no, but there are jobs that illegal immigrants do have, and I don't know what those jobs are. Maybe they're working in the tech industry, and we're talking about engineers, or maybe we're talking about somebody building a house. And I'm sorry, but I feel like if we need to build houses like crazy here in California, we're not going to be ready if we're going to expect the American labor force to do it. we might just need some of these guys that could bust out these houses right away. But I'm not saying that we shouldn't prepare the American workforce. Um,
Well, but
they
see,
should be
that's
trained.
you kind of hit it there, the American workforce. So we've got a real problem here.
Yep.
It was a problem, but now it's a catastrophe with what happened under Biden. So we've got to figure out who's in the country. I mean, that's really it.
And that's one
You-
thing that I keep telling people
Yeah,
on this issue specifically. If you have a way to let people know, hey, w- let's not even call it a pathway to citizenship. Let's just call it a pathway to residency, a pathway to legality. Now, if you open up a pathway to legality and you tell people, look, come out of the shadows, come apply for these visas. We need to know who's out there, and we need to make sure that you aren't living in fear. So we get everybody to come apply for these visas. We don't make it difficult, but what we can do is start to vet who is in our country, because there are people that are here with criminal history, and they have no problem hiding in the shadows,
right.
and they live in these communities where they are terrorizing the other illegals. And this is one of Chad Bianco's things. Is like, I can't have a 12-year-old or 14-year-old girl out there getting repeatedly raped, and she's afraid to come out to the local law enforcement, because she's afraid of getting deported. It just doesn't make sense. And it's like, people love it when Steve says something anecdotal, but when Bianco says something anecdotal, it's like, yeah, he's just. I mean, on the Becerra side, people just call him. I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, no, it's the thing is the sheriff deals with this in reality every day. It's not hypothetical. He's not, round tabling these. These are things that he deals with every single day and has dealt with it for decades. So when he speaks, he's speaking from experience and wisdom, you know, godly wisdom. And this is the other part of this, is that he is a man of law and order, which is grossly lacking in California right now. The Bible, I'm a Christian, so a lot of my viewpoints and my perspectives are biblical. And the thing jumped out at me in the book, it's First John, and it said sin is lawlessness. That's what it says. So lawlessness is sin, right? So wherever there's a lot of sin, human trafficking, drugs, these are all theft, where everything's behind plexi now and Target or wherever, because everybody's stealing everything. So where there's sin, there's lawlessness. So it made sense to me. Well, what if we applied the law? What if we enforced the law? And as a
Yeah.
natural consequence of enforcing the law, the sin will go down. Makes sense. So if we want to fix California, we need law and order. And there's only one guy with a pair of cuffs, a badge, and a gun on his hip. And that's the guy, law and order. He's really the only choice in my mind. And that's why I feel so passionately about helping him in his campaign, because I've got to get him through. I'm also doing this to show people what it looks like to say you support somebody. When I say I'm going to support someone, I give it everything I got.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to give him 100% of my effort, my creativity. I stand up for him, social media, outside, because I personally have a stake in this race. And I see it as my responsibility to get him through. It's my state I have to save. It's on nobody else's shoulders. It's my responsibility to save the United States. So I'm running for Congress because I see this as mine. I want people to join me, but if I'm the only guy, then I'm the only guy. But I feel this responsibility. And I think if we all adopted this mindset, we could achieve a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you're supporting a candidate, um, you shouldn't be afraid to voice the fact that you're willing to back him, that you'll be voting for him. we didn't used to fight over these things. Maybe because people didn't talk about it, but ever since I don't know. I think it's for me. I noticed it more with Trump. People just started getting a little out of hand, and a lot
Well,
out of hand.
he
Um,
gave him the license to do that. And that's a thing. There's one, and that's another thing I would criticize him over is, he took the Manhattan builder, developer mindset, which is fine. That's how you made your fortune. It's just great. But you're now the president of the United States. You're the greatest statesman on the world stage, and you represent a lot of people.
yeah,
And you can't say certain things and you can't act a certain way because you represent more than yourself now. You're
agree.
you're our voice, and the world sees the United States through you.
Yeah.
So
I I want to open up the discussion that we started to talk about earlier, and that was with the debate because I have this thought in my mind right now, Mike. Um, you know, Bianco works in law enforcement, and he gets to see the worst of the worst, right? In his own uh, county.
right,
He sees the trafficking that goes on, things that happen to kids that you don't even want to know happen to kids.
right,
And here he is standing on stage, and a few podiums over is Becerra, who haphazardly let the children flow into the United States, into situations where many of them were not even properly vetting the homes they were going to.
that's I told you, Pomona, Norma
Exactly.
Torres, and Javier Becerra. We
Mhm.
saw it. We've got multiple whistleblowers.
I don't
It's
know. I don't know
it,
how
like,
you can stand there and stare at this man that was in charge of that.
well,
Well,
you know. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
no,
Sorry.
no, go ahead, Danny, go.
No, I was just gonna say. You know what's crazy about this is I hear people disputing this, and they're posting articles. You read the article, and it said that these children aren't lost. What happened is they were put with the sponsor or a family member, and then they just didn't show up to court. And it's like you you don't think that that's a freaking problem? What are we talking about? What are we talking? A responsible sponsor will make sure the child shows up to court. Like it's just, I don't know. This situation, the reality, the way it's being spun and the narratives, it's frustrating for me. But go ahead, Mike. I cut you off.
No,
What were
no,
you gonna
no.
say?
You're exactly right. So the sponsorship is the key. This is from Tara Rodas, the whistleblower, and other people at HHS. There was a list created. It's the sponsorship list. And so they tried to deflect this and they say, well, the kids have been moved. We can't find them, yada, yada. A lot of them are dead. A lot of bad things have happened. But we do know who picked the kids up, the sponsors. We have their name, we have their ID, we have their fingerprints. We know who the sponsors are. And that list, Javier Becerra wouldn't let anyone have access to because there were state attorney generals, Texas, and some others that wanted to find out where the sponsors were in their state. And Becerra would never let them see the list.
Of
Well,
course.
that's unconstitutional. Well, I'll fight it. I fought it before.
Right. Yeah.
I hate him and his little upper lip,
Yeah.
little
His little
lispy
list.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did nobody notice that that's basically what he was saying? That
Yeah.
I'm gonna use state funds to fight the federal government, so
Right.
we could just do what we want. And
Danny,
in a
what we
way,
do
that's
now,
kind of what's already going on, right? So he's
what
just
we do
like,
now.
yeah.
Well,
We fund
Danny,
illegal
you
immigrants,
you
and
just nailed it. Danny, you nailed it. That's who they're going to put on the ballot, Javier Becerra, because he is Gavin Newsom 3.0. He is.
Yeah.
So you can already just take that to the bank. Javier Becerra will be one of the two on the ballot coming out of June because they can. They can rig this election. They did it before and they'll do it again. The next guy on the ballot will be Steve Hilton because of the Epstein files. He's in the Epstein files trying to meet Woody Allen, a known pedophile, through Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted pedophile. Nobody in California, when they learn that, is going to vote for Steve Hilton. So you've got a fall guy with Javier Becerra. Javier Becerra will be our next governor unless we put Chad Bianco on the ballot in June, which means we have to damage Hilton and we have to lift Bianco up because everything is in our advantage with him, with the Latino community and law enforcement. He was spearheading Prop 36, which was public safety. Everyone loves it. Chad has to make it through, and we cannot have Hilton on the ballot. There won't be two Republicans because they don't have to. They can rig this in Sacramento. That's why I opened up with that. They can manipulate this. So they're going to have a Democrat, and then they're going to go, oh, look, we got a Republican on. So they go, oh, it's a fair election. It has to be Bianco. It cannot be Hilton. And I got people, Republicans, lay off of Hilton. We need to support both. No, we'll never get both on there because Sacramento won't allow it. And these are Republicans who refuse to acknowledge election fraud in California. This is the GOP. The GOP thinks it's all fine. We just need to get more people out and register more people. Well, no, you don't see the problem. And you can't fix it because you don't see it.
I agree. Wow. With Becerra, if it's Becerra and Hilton, first of all, if Hilton gets through without Bianco, there's no way that Hilton gets voted in.
No,
because he's Trump's guy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's Trump's guy, but the Epstein files, I told you, will kill him. And what's his name? The ex-mayor of LA who was on stage, Antonio Villaraigosa.
Mm-hmm.
In March, he was on CNN, and he was beating the drum. Hilton's in the Epstein files. Hilton's in the Epstein files. And he was right. And then he stopped. Did you hear him mention it from the stage the other night? No. Because they knew they have what they needed to submarine Hilton. Why waste it in March when you could use it in November? What they have to do is make sure Hilton's on the ballot with the right Democrat. So then they can take Hilton out. All they got to do is let the state know that Hilton is in the Epstein files trying to meet a pedophile. And that's it. What Latino family do you know of that would vote for that?
No, nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody.
There's gonna be a lot of people. There's gonna be a lot of people on the MAGA side that are gonna be like, "Whoa, we've been wanting these files to drop, and I didn't even realize that he was in it." And I'm like, "Come on, man, we've been telling you guys."
Yeah. Well, and like the lies he tells about Chad, he lied about this. When the file first dropped, he said, I didn't even know I was in it. Someone used my name. It wasn't my email. But then we started digging, and we saw, oh, yeah, 8 months later, you're still trying to meet Woody Allen. We found that email. So, yeah, don't tell me that. You lied about it, and you lied about everything else. Your whole campaign is lies. And that's where I come in. And I go, whatever I got to do, I'm going to scream, Hilton is lying, and this is the truth. From the immigration stance to the BLM stuff, Hilton is on record saying a lot of very bad things. Reparations. He wants reparations. That's not a Republican value. But he never said he's a Republican. But he's running as a Republican.
Yeah, and these things are all real, and his people will argue it up and down and say that's not what he meant. He meant asset reparations, and I just sit back like, dude, as a minority that isn't black, what are you like? That's not fair for me or for white people at that point, because the majority of white people have no genealogy back to slavery or slave owners now. At least out here in California, we didn't even have slavery. So it's just wild. I can't believe that we aren't eyes open to the facts here.
Yeah. Hilton is a professional communicator. He used the word reparations very pointedly. He
Yeah.
knew exactly what he was saying. That wasn't by mistake, and he repeated it 4 times, I think, in that same segment. So, no, he's for reparations. Why wouldn't he? He's a British citizen, not his money. He doesn't care.
Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I'm a third generation Army officer. My grandfather got a battlefield commission in World War II in Europe, and then he went on to serve in Korea and commanded a battalion in Vietnam. My biological father was killed in Vietnam. My mom remarried one of his classmates from West Point. My stepdad, he got 2 Purple Hearts in Vietnam and ended up retiring as a light colonel with a battalion in Germany. I was in the Army as a quartermaster officer. So my family has skin in the game. Our blood has spilt for this country. And I am running for a leadership position. Steve Hilton has nothing invested in the United States, yet he wants to assume one of the highest leadership positions in this country. You don't deserve this, and you don't get a shot at this, Steve. You need to pay your dues a little bit before you want the rewards of being here.
Yeah. That's actually something I agree with. Um, I get it that he owned a business, and I understand that he was a political strategist, but it wasn't here.
Right.
And you founded a company here, um, CrowdPack, and you had that company for a few years before they kicked you out because you were a Trump supporter in 2018. And I know you like to fight back that you didn't help fund BLM, but the fact is you stood up on stage in 2017 and proudly talked about the gentleman that you helped raise money for, and he was part of BLM. So those are just the facts.
Right.
And we don't get to erase the facts. Yeah, we allow you to grow and learn from your mistakes. But when you make certain mistakes, when you get back into good graces, for me, it's like I think of church. Like a minister messes up. We don't just allow him to be minister after a couple of years. He's got to start back down as an usher. Like, dude, why don't you try running for city council, or if it's got to be at a higher level, try running for assembly or something. See if you can
Yeah,
do
do
something.
something.
Why don't you go? You're right down the street from Wiener. Why don't you go run against Wiener?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Run for that seat, Nancy Pelosi seat.
Yeah. Well, Mike, how can our listeners find you?
Well, first and foremost is the website. We're on all the social medias, Cargile for Congress, California, CA California, CA 35 on X, but just put my name in, Mike Cargile. But the website's the key because you can get to everything from the website, and that's cargileforcongress.com. That's CARGILEFOR, cargileforcongress.com. And that'll get you anywhere. And I have so many positions on so many issues, and we'll probably add some more. I think transparency is the key. So
Right.
I want to be as transparent. I tell people everything I learned about politics, I learned at Disneyland. So there was at Disneyland, there's a stage there. It's called the Golden Horseshoe, and there was a little play, and the guy stood up, and he sounded like Steve Hilton. He put his finger in the air, and he says, "I stand for anything you'll fall for." So
Yeah.
So that's politics. Steve goes, "What's important to you?" Well, that's important to me because you'll
Yeah.
vote for me if I give you the right answer. And that's why the system is broken. So I say, Here's who I am, and these are my values, and these are my opinions, and this is why I think what I do. Now, you, as a voter, have to decide whether your values align with mine, because mine don't change. I'm the same guy as I was 6 years ago. Nothing has changed about me, and nothing will change. You have to decide whether I represent your values. And if they do, then I'd like to represent us both in Washington, D.C. That will be my job, to represent our shared values. But I'm not going to change. And if you don't like the way I think, then you can vote for the baby killing communist from Guatemala. That's your right. But I am the guy who's going to fight for their families. It's for me, that's five major points: pro God, pro family, pro life, pro jobs, pro law enforcement. And everything else falls under America first. That's how I see the world. And that's how I will see everything in Washington, D.C., through that lens. And you'll never be surprised how I vote.
I I love that message and the Disneyland thing, man. It sounds like a popular populist right there.
Doesn't it?
It does. Mike, I really appreciate you coming on to Latino Free Minds today and telling us about yourself. Standing up for Bianco is something that I really appreciate, and I love the effort that you're putting into it. And as we get through June and we start looking at that general election, um, I hope that we can get you back on maybe August
Absolutely.
or as we get closer, right?
Yeah.
To start digging more into your priorities and start focusing on Mike Cargile. And I hope that when the voters in your area are there in looking at their ballot, they're just like Mike Cargile, and they just get a little smile,
Smile.
smile.
No, and feel free if the world is about to get crazy. You can quote me on this. The world is about to get crazy. And if something really crazy happens and you want to talk about it for a different perspective, let's do that too. I can pop in and you can go, what are you seeing? What do you think? And it doesn't have to be a full blown anything. We can just talk and let people know our perspective on things and how we will represent this issue. What it doesn't matter what it is, how our opinions and what I would vote for right then if I were voting in the House of Representatives. And then maybe we get comments and we can bat it back and forth, and that's fine. Because
That's a heck of an idea. I love that.
Yeah. And you know what, Mike? And I just want to say, I know we're probably closing out, but thank you so much. I've met you a couple of times now, and every time it's a pleasure. I really appreciate your service to this country. You're a veteran. I think more veterans need to start running for seats just because we have a basic understanding of, leadership and decentralized command and decision making under pressure. So I know you've been at this for a while, and I just am so grateful to someone like you who's willing to stand up there and take the arrows and continue to fight. And I hope to keep standing shoulder to shoulder with you here in the future, sir.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Let's save the state. Let's save the country. It's really up to us. If it falls, it's going to be on our watch, and I just refuse to allow that.
Thank you so much, Mike. And Daniel, it was such an honor here
Yeah.
Gia,
having
thank you
you
for
on the
Thank
having
show.
you
me.
for your service too, Daniel.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
You,
I
you,
appreciate it, Gio. This Latino Free Minds, it's always, you guys have me stressed. I'm like, dang, they want me to help out. Oh, I feel special.
yeah. Well, we all met up at the California GOP, and I told Mike, I was like, I really want you to come on the podcast because I think I had messaged you before, but when I saw you in person, I was like, I don't think you understand. Like, I want you to come on, and at that time, um, I didn't really know my schedule and how I was gonna set it up because I have a lot of people here locally that are like, yeah, we have so and so running and they'd be so good on your show, and I'm just like, Oh, we're fighting a battle for California. I'm not focused on Fresno right now. We're doing okay here. It's outside. Like
Right,
the people that are writing the laws that we have to conform to here,
right.
we need to go fight that battle out there in Sacramento. So I think that you're part of that. You're part of that fight that we need to wage battle for. And Bianco is right now, because his is coming up so soon in June.
Right.
That is the battle that we need to go after. And I would be the worst person in the world if I didn't thank you both for your service. So I appreciate you both, everything that you've done for this country and putting America first. I appreciate you. Um,
Hurrah.
honestly,
Amen.
I owe my freedom to men and women like you both. So thank you.
Amen.
I'll be the man.
Not, I'm not calling you women. Neither one of you. I'm just saying that there are women out there. Somebody's got to cook. I mean, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, you better back out of that, right?
I'm just kidding. There's some badass women out there. Okay, I know
You
that.
ain't lying.
Oh man, there's some women that I met in San Diego that would probably beat my ass
Yeah.
if they were here in the room right now. So yeah, I appreciate you all, and look, we wouldn't have the freedom if it wasn't for the sacrifice and the fact that you guys volunteered to do it is heroic in itself. So thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, I always like to close out when I am part of the Latino Free Minds team. I always like to close out with a prayer.
Please.
So I will lead us in prayer, and with that, we will end the podcast. I'm gonna take off my hat. Heavenly Father, we come before your throne, Lord Jesus. We thank you for this day. I thank you for the opportunity of having Daniel Molina helping me co-host, and having candidate Mike Cargile on here to have a discussion about some of his policies and being willing to open up about the battle that we have going on here in California for governor. We ask you, Lord, to, if it is in your will, to allow these races here in California and across the United States to be maneuvered in such a point that we are able to put you first, and then our country and our state. To have the interest of the people here is the most important thing for me, and I hope that aligns with your will, Lord Jesus. I ask you, Lord, to dismiss us and our audience and send us with blessings and your protection and your guidance. In Jesus' name I pray, and we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.